Hey guys, and welcome back to another book video with your two favorite book nerds, Amy
and Kelly.
And today we are talking banned books.
Yeah. Or at least one.
At least one. Yeah. Banned Books Week is coming up. I actually Googled it. It is not in September. It's October 1st to October 7th. So we're coming at you a little early with some banned book talk, but you know, that's okay. It is never too early to talk about book banning.
It's an all year sort of thing.
It is.
So we were just anticipating Banned Book Week by reading a banned book.
Yes. Which was Kelly's pick this time.
Yes. I had picked out 2 books, but because of time constraints, we ended up with just one.
Yeah. We both are little busy bees right now this time of year, so.
Yeah. So we cut it back to just Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And it's not a very long book.
No, like this
at all.
This is a very misleading looking book because like over half of it is kind of like context and explaining the book, and
like this much is just various interviews and reviews of the book. This is the book.
Yeah.
And even not that much because there's an introduction by Neil Gaiman.
Which of course I know you read.
Of course I did.
And I did too.
Of course I did. So yeah, that's the gist of the book right there. So yeah, it's a quick read. So I did not have to read this in high school, and so I never read it. It was always on my list to read, and it just seemed like a good time to do it. So that's why I picked this one. Mainly. It really wasn't until I started reading it that I thought, oh, well, how appropriate that we're reading for Banned Book Week a book about banned books.
You didn't know what the book was about?
I did know what the book was about. It just didn't occur to me when I picked it.
Okay.
That's not why I picked it. I just picked it because I wanted to read it and I hadn't. So
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that was why.
Okay, well, was it worth the wait to read?
Yes. Because I don't think that I could have read this book and enjoyed it at all as a teenager.
I agree with that.
I couldn't have at all. I think I could have read it like anytime, like after college, and been okay with it. But as a teenager, I'm glad I didn't read it in high school because I would have hated it in high school. But now I think being able to read it now and pick up on the context and the themes and, you know, all that kind of stuff helps. And also having more patience with reading the language, because Ray Bradbury is not terrible easy to read.
No, he is not.
Yeah. So I don't think I would have had the patience to read it.
I personally didn't have the patience now, and I'm almost 30, so, you know, yeah.
I knew you wouldn't like it. When I was reading, I'm like, Amy's not liking this book. I know she's not.
We read Something Wicked This Way Comes a few years back for book club, and I thought, because there have been a couple other books like that we read for book club back then that I've changed my opinions on. I've either now hate them or now love them, whatever. And I thought, okay, maybe I just was too young or something for Bradbury. My reading taste has changed now. I'm more evolved and all these things. No. I still don't like Ray Bradbury.
I still would say I still think you need to reread Something Wicked This Way Comes, because I think this is harder to read than that.
Okay.
I really, he really has this way of writing that his sentence structures, it all goes to his theme. And, you know, when he writes about someone who is, well, like, is it Montag? Montauk. Especially at first, you know, he's a real disordered thinking. He doesn't know what's going on. And so Bradbury tends to write in broken sentences when it's describing his thoughts, and run-on sentences. So it really, even the style that he writes in goes to that disordered thought that Montag's going through. And it was the same way with Something Wicked This Way Comes. You know, his it's not just the words he picks, it's how he puts them together. It all goes together, and he's really good at that. There's a lot of authors that try to do that and don't do it well. He's really good at it. But this, you have to really slow down and like read word by word by word, you know, to get the sense of it.
Yeah, like this is a short book, but it's not a book you're gonna read fast.
No. But I think Something Wicked This Way Comes is a little more cohesive.
I think it's a
and
little bit
easier to read.
More of like whimsical. You kind of just like flow with the magic of all of it.
And it's also got more going on.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this book is Montag's struggle with who he is and who he wants to be and what he believes. And so there's a lot of internal stuff going on, especially in the first half of the book. The second half, things tend to pick up a bit more. But the first half is definitely much, much slower. And it's a more difficult read. This is a hard book. You have to appreciate the way Ray Bradbury writes to appreciate the writing. I mean, I know that sounds stupid, but
yeah,
he has a very distinctive writing style. You will not mistake it for anybody else. And you have to really just enjoy that style in order to enjoy the writing. And the story is not an easy story either.
What is the story? We haven't even really said. I don't know if people don't know what Fahrenheit.
Well, the story, yeah, I guess probably ought to get there. So Fahrenheit 451 is a story he wrote this book in 1953, or was published in 1953, and he was writing about the year 1999. So for him, a near future, in which books are illegal. Most books. I think they said something like trade magazines, that sort of thing. But anything to do with philosophies or fiction, I think even
the Bible.
Yeah. Oh, definitely the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
They were all not just banned, burned.
Oh.
So if the main character, Guy Montag, is a fireman, but in this world, or in this future, firemen don't put fires out, they start them. So whenever someone is turned in or found to have books, the firemen are sent out and they burn not just the books, but they burn their whole house down. And then normally these people are like arrested and then whatever happens to them. And Guy's a fireman, so that's his job. And basically books are illegal because people shouldn't think so much.
Yeah.
People can't be happy if they think too much. They just need to be entertained. And, constantly, nonstop entertained. And so books and the arts, really, because I think they talked about some music and like paintings, sculptures, none of that. Nothing that would provoke thought or discussions or anything like that. Even getting together and having like talks with friends is...
On the porches, they had all of the porches removed off of
Porches
people's
were
houses.
removed because that's where people would congregate to talk, and we don't want people talking.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, people are, like I said, constantly entertained, and in the future that Bradbury envisioned, they had wall-sized TVs, and however many walls you could have was like a mark of prosperity, and Guy had, and his wife Mildred had 3 walls, and she was nagging him about getting a 4th wall. So you could sit in your parlor and watch your wall TV on however many walls that you have. And it was somewhat interactive too. Like these programs, you could send in to get picked to be part of the program, and they would send you a script, and then they would talk to you, and they call the programs their families, their TV families.
Yeah, which that took me a really long time to understand.
Yeah.
Because I was like reading it, and they're talking about, oh yeah, we got this aunt by the wall, and this. I'm like, wait, why are there so many walls? And like, I'm so confused.
It's like surround.
Yeah.
But in one part, Mildred says to Guy, what are books? Books are nothing. They're not real. They don't talk to you. They don't interact with you. my family is real.
Mm-hmm.
I can see them, I can hear them, they talk to me. So that's the culture.
Mm-hmm.
That was the culture that was built. What I thought was really interesting about it, though, was it wasn't that the government came in and took the books and told the people. They did it to themselves.
Mm-hmm. There were people.
They stopped reading. They stopped doing this. And then the government picked up on that and encouraged it and went with it. So they were talking about, you know, like college classes where, like arts classes, one year they might have 50 people in them, and the next year it was maybe 2, because during that time. And I'm not gonna be able to say this. Bradbury had started with like envisioning a world where nobody read, and what would that look like? What would that be? So that's the world. But then one day, Guy meets this girl, Clarice. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, Clarice.
Clarice, I know, I kept thinking about that the whole time. So Clarice is an odd person. She's a 17-year-old girl, and she is a pedestrian. Because even going out on walks and encountering nature and doing that sort of thing was highly discouraged. You don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was structured.
Yeah, because going on walks would give you time to think.
Yes. So she was a pedestrian from a family of pedestrians, and she would meet him as he was coming home from work, and she would ask him questions, and he thought she was really strange, but then he started thinking about what she was talking about and her questions. And he started noticing that her family's house was always had lights on, and while everybody else's houses were dark because they were all in watching TV, which was part of the foreword, which I thought was really neat. I did not know that when TV first came along, it was, of course, black and white, but they were so small and such low quality, people would have to turn their lights off to see the screen. And so, like, almost overnight, you would go from nighttime neighborhoods that were all lit up to complete darkness because people were turning the lights off, and they were eating dinner in front of their TVs, you know, TV trays and TV dinners. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, he starts to think about these things, and he's thinking, and the next time he goes out on a fire, the woman whose house it is refuses to let them burn her books, and she lights the match herself and kills herself by lighting herself on fire and burning with her books, and that really, really affects Guy. But he steals a book while he's there and takes it home. And there's been a few mentions of something that he's hiding, and it turns out that this isn't the first time that he's stolen a book. So even though he seems like a model fireman, he is not. So it starts with the whole inner monologue with him struggling with what to do, and he gets visited by his boss, and his boss is pushing that party line really hard, and then that guy still doesn't fall for it, and he goes and he looks up this guy that he had met a long time ago, Faber, and talks with him, and they try and formulate some weird plan, and anyway, it all falls apart, and Guy gets caught, and it escalates from there. So it's just very much themes on how important it is to read and to think. To think for yourself. I can't say I liked the book. I really can't. It was just too, in some ways, depressing, because I wish I tabbed it. But there were places where I was just like, oh my gosh, Bradbury was prophetic. This is like now. This is it. The constant entertainment, and not just the constant entertainment, but the quickness of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were talking about nothing longer than like a 30-minute program or a 15-minute program. And I'm like, oh my gosh. We're down to Twitter and TikTok now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I think there was even some kind of reference to like just consuming but never really digesting. You know, just watching these programs but never really thinking about what they are. And I just kept thinking about, you know, 140 character Twitters that nobody, you just...
Or just when mindless scrolling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much the same thing at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm guilty of for sure.
Oh, me too. Me too, absolutely. But it just really hit me that it's like, wow. So my takeaway, anyway, was because it was crazy. This, like, people would drive. They had Beetles. They called them Beetles, that they were their cars. And they were capable of going at
like 130 miles an hour.
Huge
like
speed.
Crazy.
And they would intentionally go out and drive, and if they hit something, like, mentioned like hitting a dog, it was like, whatever.
Yeah. That was actually, like, his wife suggested that to him when he was like having one of his like episodes or whatever. She's like, just go take the beetle out and go see if you can hit a dog or something.
Yeah, that's what I do when I get depressed or when I get she was talking about, he was trying to talk about how his thoughts and his feelings and how he just was having a really hard time dealing, and she just was like, well, just go drive fast, mindless activity to get your mind off of it. And I thought,
distract yourself from your thoughts.
How often do I sit and play a game because I don't want to think? But anyway, yeah, I mean, just the callousness.
Mm-hmm.
And one time when he's out walking on the street, there's this car that comes and like intentionally tries to hit him. Like it's a game. And the drivers and the passengers, they're laughing and going on. And like just the callousness. And it just like, I think his point was, without reading and without the arts, you don't think deeply, you don't think things through, you don't reason, and how much of that has to do with our empathy and our sense of right and wrong. And I thought, internet trolls, anyone? So there was a lot in there that kept hitting me of how true that is. And then of course I had to keep going back to banned books, and not just, reading, but the kind of books that are banned are generally the books that really do hit you and make you think. Imagine that. Anyway, it's not an easy book to read.
No, it's
a
not.
hard book to read.
It's hard for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But I think that even though I didn't like it, I do think that it is worth a read. Mm-hmm. Like it's not an easy book to read, but it's worth it just because of the context and everything. And just like you were mentioning how similar a lot of the situations are to now.
If nothing else, Guy Montag's boss, his fire chief, Beatty, I don't know. Anyway, if nothing else, go and look at his monologues. And if you can't relate that to like things that do happen, you're not paying attention. Because especially the one where Guy is sick and he's going to call in sick, and the chief comes to his house, and there he gives this explanation. It's the explanation in the book for why the world is the way it is now. And the fire chief is talking about this, trying to get Guy to like come back into the fold. Like, remember, this is why we do what we do, and you better come on back. But it really is. That one in particular really hit me as being really close to a lot of things. Like social media kept coming up in my head with this. But it is TV too. I mean, binge watching Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, I've been binge watching Supernatural again. I have 1 season left, and there's 13 seasons. But, you know, just like that. And honestly, especially something that long, you can sit and binge watch it and then think, you can watch 4 or 5 episodes in a day and then come back and go, what was the first episode? I don't even remember. And that's just exactly like what they were doing in the book.
Yeah.
That it didn't matter. You know, they would talk about just as long as you were busy and entertained for the minute. That's all that mattered. Because thinking makes people unhappy. And then no deep thinking because, well, in the book they called them minorities, which is a sign of its time. But you can't let anybody be unhappy. And I relate that now to, it's like nobody can be offended today. You know? But as long as we don't have these philosophical discussions, then everybody can just be happy. If we're just binge watching Netflix or scrolling through Instagram and you're not thinking, then nobody can get offended and nobody can be unhappy. And that's why we do this. That's why we don't think. That's why we don't read. Like, oh, golly. Wow. So anyway, I thought those monologues particularly were pretty interesting. So I still don't know that I quite understood how it all came to be the way it was specifically, but I don't think I was supposed to. I don't think that really mattered to this book in particular.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there it is.
There it is, yeah. I don't know. This is gonna sound really dumb, but like, I think it's really good that we did this video and also that we picked this book because I didn't realize how big of an issue banning books was before now.
Yeah.
Because it was something that, you know, Banned Books Week's been around for a long time and I never paid any mind to it. Like, I'm just like, oh, this would be fun to, like, do a theme for the blog or, like, whatever. Like, use it for something social media related.
Here we are.
Yeah, or, you know, instead of, like, actually sitting down to think, like, why are we having a Banned Books Week? Like, why is this important and how can I help? Like, I never, like, you know, this isn't affecting me. Like, this isn't really an issue. That was kind of my thought process. And it started to hit me that this was a much bigger deal than I thought it was when I went to the library to try and find the books that we were going to read for Banned Books Week, and I couldn't find them anywhere. And I'm like,
really?
Yeah. They weren't, neither one of the 2 books that you had picked out were at the library.
Really?
You couldn't even get them on the e-library thing.
Okay, I got them on my e-library.
Okay.
So that's...
Okay, well, in my library...
This one, because we were also going to read Fight Club. They did not have that one. But, I mean, I got it easy enough. I don't go to my library because they tend to not have books I like there. But I do use the e-library system. And they did have this, because that's how I started the book before I got them. But I'm surprised your public library didn't have it, especially this one.
I know. That's why I'm like, well, both of them, honestly, because everyone knows the movie Fight Club. So it's like, I was just really shocked to see that the library didn't have either one of these books. And
Did you ask them why they didn't? That would be interesting. Just to ask them why they didn't. If it just wasn't popular enough to keep around, or
if there was a...
Because this one, I went and looked, there is no on the record official ban anywhere of this book. It's been challenged many, many times. And when it first came out, like I said, it was in the 50s. So he was writing this in his historical context, or his life during that time. The culture was McCarthyism. And that was all of it was the Cold War. Mm-hmm. It was, Senator McCarthy was the one that was going to root out communism, and so everybody was a communist, and all the blacklists came along, and everybody was under scrutiny and, being monitored and being watched, and it was like an almost encourage you to turn in your neighbor kind of deal.
Big brother situation.
Yeah, and so that was the climate in the U.S. when he wrote this book. So he was answering to that. Mm-hmm. Because in those Senate hearings, a lot of those with Senator McCarthy, he was targeting a lot of artists. A lot of Hollywood movie people got targeted, authors and artists. Those were by far the people who were being targeted. And so, there you go. That was, and again, that time, I think we can all know that, like, Leave It to Beaver is purely fictional. Mm-hmm. But it was a very conservative time.
It was, yeah.
Really conservative time. And, yeah, I mean, you didn't talk about this kind of stuff, But it was challenged a lot. Because there is violence. There is suicide. And also mentions of suicides. Almost suicides. Well, death. I mean...
There's a lot.
Yeah. Because Clarice disappears.
Mm-hmm. Animal harm.
Animal harm. Well, yeah, because they're, like, talking about just running over dogs. Go hit a dog. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So, yeah, there's a lot of trigger warnings in here, and a lot of reason why people would challenge it. The most recent challenge that I could find to this book online was 2018.
Which is when the movie came out, the newest movie. Yeah.
But the biggest, well, of course, there's language. People say hell and damn. One person tried to challenge it in a school library because they burned a Bible. Not because someone commits suicide, not because someone gets killed, not because there's drug use, not because...
What kind of school was this, though?
None of that.
Aren't most schools not...
I don't know. They burned a Bible.
Okay.
So that was that one. But no, the most recent one, though, like I said, 2018. That's the one I could find. It's about the violence and the suicide and the drug use. That's generally the most common...
Fair.
The most common challenges to the book. But I didn't find them particularly...
It's not like they were graphic. They weren't described in detail.
They're just mentioned. But, for some people, that's enough. I mean, and there was a cleansed version of this book in the 70s, or maybe it was in the 60s. They had done this... this version of the book where they took out, like, they censored the book. They took out all the language. They took out the violent parts. And it was this cleansed book. I can't remember. It's an actual edition. High Bell, something like that. Anyway, it was done specifically for this one reason. Mm-hmm. But somehow, the cleansed version got into the production, and so all of the paperback copies from that point on were the cleansed version. It was only in 1972 or 3 that a teacher was teaching this in her class that she noticed that her classroom editions were not the same as her edition that she had personally at home. And the entire class wrote Ray Bradbury to tell him what was going on. And that's how they discovered what had happened.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And then they republished the actual book then.
Dang.
So there you go. Even
Go
completely
teach.
unintentionally. See what happens when you censor things? Would we even be reading the same book anymore? Yeah, I didn't find it particularly.
No, it didn't bother me any, like, for those reasons.
No, not at all. Not at all. But, you know, we read horror too, so.
True.
But still,
I'm pretty
I think
desensitized to a lot of things.
no, it's not. It's not at all. I mean, it's disturbing. Because there's one scene with a lady who sets herself on fire. Rather than having them burn her books, she burns them herself and herself with them. And then there's the other one with his wife.
Yeah.
That was just cold. That whole thing just was so cold.
Yeah. I have a tab where I wrote down, yo, what?
Yeah.
What's happening?
So they have these things called seashells that they can wear in their ear, and it's just like a constant audio. So you can be like listening to the radio in your ear all night long. Some kind of radio program. And I mean, basically it's like they do it so you can lull yourself to sleep. And
yeah, or you could just have something going like all day, because like with
all the time.
His wife, like she wakes up and first thing she does is put that in her ear.
Yeah, and then go into her parlor.
Mm-hmm.
But the first night in the book that he comes home from work, he notices that she's not moving, she's not responding, that her eyes are open, but she's staring. And then his foot hits this little vial that he notices is empty, and they're sleeping pills or some kind of relax. He notices they're empty, and there had been like 30 in there before. So it never says that she tried to commit suicide, but it implies it heavily. And that he calls, and they have this crew that will come out with 2 different machines. One is basically a stomach pump.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the snake that goes down to your stomach, and they suck it all out into the machine. And the other machine replaces your blood, so that you don't have drugs in your blood.
Yeah.
After that. And they're just standing there smoking cigarettes and doing this, and then they're packing up because they've got probably at least 12 other cases of the same thing to go on that night. And it's like,
and guys ask me, I'm just like, where's the doctor?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And then it's like, nah, you know, this happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like the doctors aren't even concerned about this. We got this. It's just a cleanup.
Yeah.
We're just the custodians.
And so
what they
like
are
that, it
custodians?
never comes out and says it, but it's like with the hitting
handyman. That's what they're called. You don't need an MD. Case like this, all you need is 2 handymen. Clean up the problem in half an hour.
Again, the same as like when they're talking about speeding, and if you hit something, who cares? That lack of empathy. These guys were just so cold, like they were delivering flowers or something, you know? It's like, whatever. We're just gotta move on now. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. Just that lack of any...
Well, and also just lack of any emotion, really.
Yes.
That's what is emotionless, because that was one of the things that Clarice brought up to Guy in one of their talks, is like, do you love anyone? Or are you in love? Because she had the dandelion, and she was like, you know, the little trick when you hold it under your chin, and it's like, if it's yellow, then apparently you're in love.
You're in love. Yeah.
And she did that to Guy, and his wasn't yellow underneath, and she's like, oh, well, I guess you don't love anybody. And he's just like, that made him really stop, because like, but I'm married.
Well, he said, I love my wife. And then he's like, do I?
Don't I? Like, maybe.
Do I?
And then, later on in the book, he talks about how, like, he doesn't even know who she is, like, really. And they can't remember where they met.
Yeah, when he asked her, he's like, do you remember where we met? And she didn't remember either. Can't remember how they met.
And then he's like, I don't really care if she lives or dies. Like, that was
Yeah,
another
no,
thing.
yeah.
Like, I didn't
Yeah.
really feel anything after this whole ordeal, and I didn't really care.
Yeah.
And, like, what?
But I think along with all of that too, I think the whole that this happens so often, they'll probably have at least 12 cases a night where they're gonna, do this, is just without the arts.
It's a mind-numbing thing.
Without that, the deeper things that make us think, that make us feel, is what meaning is there.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was so amazed by too is like the next day when he tries to bring up what she did, she's like, I didn't do that. I would never do that. And off to the parlor she goes. It's like, wow. And he makes it so believable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can sit and think these are all just absolutely insanely crazy things. No.
But it's not, though. That's the thing. Is like, he's not making it believable because of how he's writing it. It's believable because it's happening.
It's so easy to see how it can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where he is really good. It just in drawing conclusions, and that's something I really love about books that are about our near future, in that, especially books that were written in like his era, like 1984,
Oh, yeah.
and how that can just really make you stop and go, whoa, no. How good they were about drawing conclusions, taking a thread and following it to its end. And even now, people who are writing speculative fiction now, who, write books about 2050 or 2060, and you're like, oh, lots of thoughts for this book. Lots of thoughts. Read it, even if it takes a while, and it will.
It will.
Even
And
if you
it's
don't,
okay.
even if you don't like it, it's important to make you stop and think. And I mean, for myself, like I said, I can't say that I liked the book necessarily. I did find it harder to read. I found it hard to follow his prose sometimes. I do want to read it again to try and maybe a second read through I'll get it a little bit better. But I don't think you have to. I don't think that you have to necessarily understand every single sentence that he writes in order to get the book. You don't. You really don't. The message is very clear.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you do nothing but read it for Beatty's monologues, there's 2 of them in particular, which the second one I thought was really interesting, that he was arguing. Well, he wasn't really arguing with Montague. He was more trying to put him down and put him in his place and make him be stupid. Mm-hmm. But he was quoting fictional works. So at some point in time, I think he played it off at the one point, he played it off as, well, as part of his training to be a chief, he had to read.
He had to read all of these books, so that way he knew.
I really wondered in the beginning, I almost thought that they'd figure out that Beatty was a closet reader too. But didn't turn out that way.
No.
But anyway,
I didn't see that, but.
So I mean, that's just kind of another thing about how hypocritical, kind of authoritarianism can be. Mm-hmm. Where, this is bad, you shouldn't do this, but in order to tell you how bad you are, I'm going to quote the very things that...
Right.
He kept quoting Shakespeare. Like, what? So just that, like I said, any kind of autocracy or authoritarianism, I always find them so hypocritical. Because they are. But this just really kind of slaps you in the face with it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for especially those 2 monologues, if nothing else, read those 2, because that's nuts. And yeah, some of Montague's interactions with Mildred too, just that, the stark differences where Mildred is very much a product of the culture, mm-hmm. and where Montague is a thinker. It's just, yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And scary.
And scary.
It really is. Like I said, I didn't I think once I realized that banned books is really an issue, and then I went and read this book, I'm like, kind of freaked out a little bit now. I'm like, we could head here very quickly. We could end up like this. We're on the track. So I'm like,
Yeah.
What representatives do I need to be writing to right now so that way we can unban books and things like that?
I don't know of any active challenges going on, like, in our area at the moment.
I don't think that there are any.
My local school, I know, doesn't. I haven't heard of any challenges. In fact, I've never heard of any challenges at our local school, which is good. I don't know what they're reading either, though, so maybe that's it.
Well, when I was in school, we read To Kill a Mockingbird, Of Mice and Men, Catcher in the Rye, Grapes of Wrath.
See, and this one floors me. A Wrinkle in Time. Seriously? And Huckleberry Finn.
Okay, Huckleberry Finn's kind of an obvious one.
Well, yeah, but still. I mean, come on. Can people really not... Well, there we go again. Can people really not think? I mean, you've got to put a book in the context of its time.
Sure.
Whatever. Anyway, we read Mice and Men.
Yeah.
I do remember reading that one.
I know we read quite a few of the classics.
But anyway, I don't know of any specific challenges. I know that there's been a few. But I guess I can't say in reading, like online and stuff, of any specific big, like, widespread bans.
Right, like you can't find the book anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. Which I agree
like
with that.
where, like, one book has been banned from all school libraries, like across the nation or over several states. I couldn't find anything like that.
Yeah.
It was more just like individual school boards. But I mean, obviously some books are much more challenged than others.
Yeah.
But I really couldn't find any books that were just like nowhere. Which does bring me to what I did want to say, because, you know, your local libraries, most of the time these books are not challenged in public libraries. Most of the time. There have been some. They're mostly challenged in school libraries. So you should be able to still find them, even though Amy couldn't at her local library.
Apparently not at my library. And we'll have to ask them, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to know why that is. I did not look at my local library. However, through your library, you get on the e-library books. Like mine is Sunflower. Sunflower ebooks.
That's what mine is.
Is that for yours too? So, you know, your local library should be able to direct you to wherever your online books. The Library of Congress is available to everybody. You know, as long as you have internet or can at least access internet for a minute. Because like with Sunflower, you borrow the book and then you download the book. So like I do mine through my Kindle, and then when the library's up, the library takes the ebook back. It's pretty simple. So as long as you can access the internet for just a minute to download the book, you can get it. So there are ways and there are resources, and the best place to find those resources is your public library. So access your public library. If there isn't a book available at your school or whatever, go to your library if you can. If you can't even go to your library, then call your library. Maybe they can help hook you up with a library card over the phone or something. I don't know. I didn't have to do much to get my library card, but then again, the librarian knows me personally, so I don't know. But yeah, to access most of the stuff, you do need a library card from your local library. So, but once you've got that, man, open it up. There are also, like, again, if you can access internet, there are free Kindle books. You don't have to join You don't have to join Kindle Unlimited. There are free. Most of the classics are free. You can find them. If they're in public domain, you can find them all over the place online, as long as you can access the internet. So that's my spiel. I did start reading this book because I didn't have my physical copy yet on the ebook. That's probably why you couldn't get the ebook. I probably already had it checked out.
Probably.
So I did start reading it on the Sunflower Library, and they do audiobooks too. And there's Libby too, which is an app for your phone. And I mean, there's just so many resources that you can access these books. And you know, the popular saying is, if you're gonna, you know, if a book is banned, you know you need to read it. And that's probably very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So, there you go. That's my spiel for that.
I don't think that was a good spiel.
Read the books. Just read.
Yeah. Just read anything that you want.
Yeah.
Read it all.
Just read.
Just don't stop reading. Don't stop reading. Hold on to that book.
Oh, goodness. That was a heck of a journey rendition right there. There you go.
I know. They're asking me to come be their next lead singer.
Yeah. You and Steve Perry. I don't even know if I can rate this book. Honestly.
I did. I gave it 2 stars.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't enjoy my time, but I think that it is still an important book. So regardless of rating, you should still read it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not mad that I read it. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah. Because I think on my enjoyment of the book, I probably would do a 3. Because I did enjoy the story, just, if no other reason, just how on point he was when he wrote this. And I'm still thinking about it just constantly. And so I can't say that I enjoyed the writing. Unlike Something Wicked This Way Comes, I loved it. I didn't necessarily enjoy that, but I still appreciated it. I appreciated what he was doing with it. So I still would have given it a 3. And I felt like the pacing of the story was way skewed. Like, it was really slow at the beginning, really fast at the end. Mm-hmm. I think some things were a little convenient to happen. So, I mean, maybe a 3 on that, but I'd bump it up to a 4 because of the subject matter and the themes, for sure. They're so important, and I'd give it a 4 because of that. So, if it was just a book, it'd be a 3. But because of what it's about, it's a 4.
That's fair.
For me. Yeah. Then I'm going to reread it. I am. I finished this book like 2 days ago, and I have just been thinking about it all the time.
It's exactly what they didn't want you to do, Karen.
I know. I'm not supposed to do that. But, yeah. I mean, I guess in that way, it's a good book. Mm-hmm. If it can make you continue to think. And I think the one thing I did like about this version, which is the 60th anniversary version, which was out 10 years ago. So this year is the 70th anniversary of when it came out. Neil Gaiman wrote the foreword. And it's a good foreword, too.
Oh, of course.
It is.
I wouldn't expect anything less from
him. No. But again, like we said, you know, the last good part of the pages of this book are, like, they have little doodles from when Bradbury was writing. I don't know if you can see that with the lighting in here tonight. But, and then, like, pages where he was doing his rough drafts and doing his corrections and things. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can. But it was talking about what was going on in history while he was writing this, and what was going on with him while he was writing this. And then it went into a lot of the reviews of the books and things. And I just thought that was really interesting to read because it really put the book in context of what was going on at the time.
It's very important for most
Yeah.
books like this is you need to understand the context to really get the full meaning of the book
Yes.
and see why
Mm-hmm.
it was written the way it was.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that a lot. And if you didn't know, 451 degrees Fahrenheit is supposedly the temperature at which book pages burn. And that's how he ended up with that title.
Pretty cool.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, if you guys enjoyed watching this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, go on down below the video and hit that red subscribe button and join the Everyday Adventure family. You can see our beautiful faces every Sunday with new book videos. And the lighting is not always this bad. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're a little bit more upbeat. It's late. Okay.
It's such heavy subject matter. Too.
Yeah, that is very true. So, anyway, a lot of great videos every Sunday around 3-ish p.m.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and catch us next week for our book club discussion.
Oh yeah, our live.
Yeah.
Oh
Which
my gosh,
will
that's
be-
next week.
Yeah, we gotta read. Because this is a chunkier book.
Yep.
The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. That is our book club book for September.
Mhm.
Yeah, September, which we always discuss the first Sunday of the month following, which will be, of course, October 1st. We will be here 3 o'clock-ish to discuss the book, and we are going to have a little Halloween craft while we do it.
I'm so excited.
A little mindless entertainment for y'all. If you've read the book, go ahead and join us. Watch us build our little Halloween houses. If you haven't read it, hey, pick it up.
Yeah.
Read it. We'll be
Go out
discussing
and
it.
get your own little Halloween house
right.
to build too. You can build
That's
one
right.
with us. We
right.
can make it a whole thing.
Anyway, we'll be live next week around 3 o'clock on Sunday. But join.
Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot about that. We now
click
have
join.
memberships now. So you guys can get some really fun things if you join the memberships. You can get early access to the videos. You can get members only videos. Definitely a lot of members only content that you don't want to miss out on. So go and hit that join button.
Absolutely. And be sure that you check out all the other videos on her channel too. It's not all just book content. There's a lot of other things to go look at.
And stuff.
And stuff. You can go see her cleaning videos, renovation videos. She just decorated her bedroom for Halloween. That was fun. You see all kinds of I know, stuff like that. And you can also go out and check out it's late. You can go check out her blog, which has more content to see there. Things on travel and, stuff.
Restaurant reviews. Foodie Fridays.
I'm so tired. It's been a long day. Yes. Foodie Friday. Watch it Wednesdays. Travel articles. I mean, it's all there. It's all fun to read, so go check that out too.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk anymore.
No, I think we're both done with the talking.
Yeah.
So like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.